Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be doing my February wrap-up. I did do a mid-month wrap-up, so I'm not going to be going too in-depth into the books that I read and talked about in that video, but we will quickly recap. So I read and didn't rate two novellas: Uncovered Truths by Alexandria Warren and I Think I Might Love You by Christina C. Jones. I read When Love Ignites by Rosie Adams and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I read Black Witch Magic by Mila Nix and gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Raffi by Rebecca Witherspoon and gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The Inheritance Game by Jennifer Lynn Barnes and gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Destiny's Embrace by Beverly Jenkins and gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The Scale by Micaiah Jolie, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars. Hate by Tate James, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. And those are all of the books that I talked about in that video. So if you would like to hear any of my thoughts on those, I will have that video linked down below in the description, or you can watch any of the vlogs that I've done. I pretty much talk about every single book that I read in those videos, because I know not everybody that watches vlogs watches wrap-ups and vice versa. So let's talk about the books that I've read since the middle of the month. So the first book that I read after that wrap-up was A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, which is the second book in the Blood and Ash series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This one I ended up giving 2 stars. So this is essentially the continuation of the series. I did a full reading vlog, mild spoilers in it, but this was a huge disappointment. The thing that I liked about the first book so much was that it was very fast paced and it had like that edge to it, and all of the characters were endearing enough that you enjoyed being with them. But the things that I didn't like about it were the like very info dumpy and kind of useless world building. And I felt the same way about the second one, except it was way worse. The world building was just insane. If you watch that video, literally every clip is just me updating you on more world building, because that's all that happened. No real plot happened, and the ending just made me angry. So in total, this was a huge disappointment. I will likely read the third book just to see if it gets better, but it was a massive downgrade from the first one. So then I read The Wreckage of Us by Brittany C. Cherry, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. This is a small town rock star normal person romance. The rock star grandfather owns a farm, and when the heroine ends up getting kicked out of her mother's house, she comes and works and lives on the farm, and it is sort of an enemies to lovers. I have read a lot of Brittany C. Cherry books. Well, not a lot. I've read like an entire series by her, and she's definitely more on the hard-hitting side, more emotional, and this one had similar emotions. It was more about like, you know, addiction and what that can do to family and things like that, because both of the main characters are dealing with addiction in their family, specifically their parents. But I felt like this was probably the weakest Brittany C. Cherry I've read so far. The enemies to lovers aspect of it was gotten over super quickly. Their little feud with each other was quick, and there was really no tension and buildup between the two, and I didn't really like see any supporting evidence for why they would work together. And I wish that we had spent less time on like the rock star aspect and more time on them, and just altogether it was not her strongest. Obviously this isn't going to make me stop reading her. I think she's a fantastic author, and she, like, if I need those hard hitting and I want to feel emotional, then I go to her, but this was just not her best. So then I read Deeper by Rosie Adams, which I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is sort of like a 40-50 page epilogue following after Go Deep. So this is their wedding, and it was just so cute. Usually I don't really care about epilogues or continuations of series because I just don't care about people being happy, but it was just, seeing this couple again was fantastic. Their wedding was beautiful, just all of it. Their love is just so pure and just so beautiful. So then I continued the Madison Kate series that I started at the beginning of the month, and I read Liar, which is the second book in the series, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Again, this is a continuation of a series, so there isn't really much plot-wise or anything I can tell you, but it seems like she just ramps it up more and more, and the messiness gets more and more. I absolutely loved the first book. This whole series is just a very much like fan fiction-esque, messy, fun, good time, and as the series goes on, it just gets even crazier. The first one is more about her relationship like with the guys, because she thinks that they framed her. Essentially, she gets framed for a crime that she didn't commit, and then she has to end up living with the people that she thinks framed her for the crime. And then as the series goes on, obviously more plots are introduced. There's a stalker, there's someone trying to kill her. It's just a bunch of craziness, and it just is so fun, and it's definitely a good time if you're looking for a series to binge and get your mind off things. So then after Liar, I read Again the Magic by Lisa Kleypas. This is a historical romance set between, like, I would say 1860 to 1870, and this is like a second chance. This follows a woman who is, I think they're like, are they a duchess? Is that what they're called? Her father like owns an estate, and the hero was a stable boy, and so they had like a relationship when they were young, but her dad finds out and basically says, you have to choose me or him, like choose the family or him. She chooses the family, and he gets fired and he has to leave, and then he comes back 12 years later with like a revenge plan in mind. And in addition to that, you're also getting a pretty prominent storyline of her sister and the hero's best friend. And so I gave it 3 stars. I felt like if we had not had the dual stories going on, I would have been able to connect a little bit more to the story and to the characters. As it was, I really enjoyed the sister and the best friends storylines more than the original couple. And I mean, I liked McKenna okay, but overall I just felt like there was like this barrier between me and the story where I just couldn't connect, if that makes sense. So it was a 3-star. So next up, I reread Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin. This is considered a YA fantasy, but you can speculate about that. And it follows Lou and Reed, and Lou is a witch and Reed is a witch hunter, and they end up having to get married through some circumstances, and some chaos ensues from there. When I originally read the book, I gave it 4 stars, and then I periodically go back as like my tastes have changed, and I kind of changed the star rating on things, and I ended up bumping this down to a 3-star. This is just a really, really fun fantasy, but the second time around, I definitely noticed some more world building and some more explanation that I felt like I was missing the first time, more explanation into the magic system and all that, and I definitely was endeared more to the characters than I was the first time. And I really liked it. It was a fun, quick read. And I reread that so that I could read Blood and Honey, which is the sequel, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm probably gonna stick with 4. I read a lot of reviews for this, and a lot of people were really disappointed because they felt like the characters were out of character and that Lou and Reed weren't really what we had gotten in the first one. But there are a sequence of events that happens in Serpent and Dove that I feel like the characters couldn't ignore, and I felt like if Shelby Mahurin had made them exactly who they were in Serpent and Dove, I would have been disappointed, because they both went through individual traumas, and I wouldn't want them to ignore those traumas and just like act like everything was fine. Reed is dealing with a lot of grief, in addition to the fact that everything that he knew his entire life is not right, and so he's dealing with a lot of prejudices and things like that. So I would expect him to be dealing with a lot. And Lou is dealing with some things with her magic. So I would expect these characters to be different than what we got in Serpent and Dove, because they have gone through so much. And I think that if by this one they were just all hunky-dory, I would have not liked it. So I enjoyed the character work that we got in this one. I didn't love the ending, just because I felt like we had gone through so much with Lou that the ending just kind of felt like a regression. But I still really liked this one. I liked it more than Serpent and Dove, and I like the work that Shelby Mahurin is doing. I think this is a fantastic sequel, and I'm excited to see what she can do in the future. And then the last book that I read this month was Fake, which is the 3rd book in the Madison Kate series. And kind of like I said before, this is just a really fun, bingeable series that is just written very quirky, and it's like high octane. There's always something going on. There's a bunch of plot lines, people trying to kill her, people trying to stalk her, like just a bunch of craziness that just lends itself to a fun time where you can kind of just read and enjoy yourself, and you kind of just get lost in the world. And I really recommend them if you're looking for a good time. those are all of the books that I read in February. It was not a fantastic month. My reading has just not been there, really. Unfortunately, I wish that I was, I wish that my mind was in a place where I want to read. I want to read, but when I pick stuff up, it's just really hard for me to continue reading, and it takes me a while, but once I'm into it, I'm really liking it. I'm just in a weird place, but pushed through. I think I did a decent enough job this month, and I look forward to March. But comment down below what you read this month, if you read anything. If you didn't read anything, no shame, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching.